Hello everybody and welcome back to Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what the story is about today. In today's story, OP says, "Gonna preface this by stating that this happened 3 years ago." Let's start with the frame of the story. I'm 27, grew up like most guys under the assumption that the one is out there. I always thought if you play your cards right, your soulmate will magically appear and you will ride into the sunset. When I was 19, I met a woman. Let's call her Bree. I met Bree through mutual friends while I was in the army. Bree was cute, seemed like an overall good girl. Her friend, let's call her Sam, thought it would be a great idea to get us together as a couple. Not sure what her reasons were, but I was into her and she was into me. Bree was up for a few days visiting Sam and I had just gotten back from leave in my home state, so the meetup was inevitable. We all had lunch. Myself, Bree, Sam, Sam's husband. Let's call him Jim. This meetup was nothing special, but after Bree had flown home, she messaged me on Facebook and we hit it off. After roughly 3 weeks of talking to Bree, she hit me with a very strange question. If I was pregnant, what would you do? Now, before I get to my answer, let's do the math here. She was in her party years and been with many guys. I found it out very later in the relationship. She had a boyfriend a month before meeting me. I was adopted, so accepting a kid as my own seemed like a no-brainer. My answer was what seemed like the right thing. I will love that child as if it were my own. Well, it turns out she was showing a lot of signs of pregnancy. A week later, she took the test and it was positive. I stood by my word, I will take care of this kid. There was a 3-month gap between this revelation and when she decided to fly out to me. During this gap, she was very strange, trying to see if she could get who she thought was the dad to commit and help her take care of the kid. He never did, so she chose me instead. Yes, I understand now why staying with her was a bad idea. I was dumb, in love, and I believed she was the one and that she'd come around eventually. I married her so that the army would cover the birth and the rest should have been history. But we all know it wasn't. 2 years in and I noticed something a bit strange. Some guy, we'll call him Ron, was liking every post she put out and commenting on every photo that she had the daughter in it. This seems odd. At this point of our marriage, I had gotten out of the military and was working a job in security. One night while working, my lizard brain connected the dots and the gut feeling followed. Now, I'm not the one to act on just suspicion, I need solid evidence. Given that I was working in a nightclub that night, I would get off at 4 in the morning. She will be asleep. She leaves her laptop on the living room couch downstairs every night before bed. The plan is coming together. I get home, head to the couch, and the laptop is there. I opened it and take 2 guesses on the password. It's the birth year of our daughter. I go to her FB and take a look at the messages. There it is. 6 months of conversation with a guy named Ron. Some of the conversation was flirty. Some jokes are about how useless and less of a man I am. The worst part though was the revelation that this guy who she feels is the biological father and she's trying to get him involved. I scroll and scroll until I can't stomach it anymore. I grab the laptop, take it upstairs and set it on with the screen shining in her face. As she slowly wakes up, I say, "We are talking about this in the morning," and I walked back downstairs. She normally wakes up at 7 but didn't come down until 9. Probably hoping I would be asleep on the couch. She begins by saying it was only friendly talk and not technically cheating. I called it BS and told her that if I see this again, I'm gone. Now I said if, but I knew better. It would be when. This is when I set my plan in motion. I dropped out of college to get a job in my field and made sure anything that was opened under credit was under her name. I began stating that back where I am from has a better economy and that we would be better off there. It took 2 years of convincing, but it worked. Nothing was under my name and we were set to go to my hometown in 6 months. We got there in May and I sent her home to visit the next month. I knew what she would do and who she would do it with. There was a guy we met through Sam the day before we left, and I knew immediately that she was interested in him. 3 weeks after going to visit, she started acting strange again, prioritizing other things over me, putting things off, and becoming distant. Now, I spent 2 years setting the dominoes up. I just let her knock them over. I made sure I was jobless, had nothing to my name, and was home where I could fall back on family. I pressured her into admitting that she cheated, and the dominoes tumbled. I cut all funds that were being sent to the account and drained it so I can file for divorce. I had nothing, so she could not take half. I had no job, so what lifestyle did we have that would require giving her alimony? Everything was in her name, so even though I had financial responsibility for some of those bills, the divorce lasted long enough to destroy her credit. I gave her everything and sacrificed much to raise her child, but at the end, she lost most of it. I am now extremely successful and valued in my career. I'm not interested in marriage, but I have no shortage of women in my life. Life is really good. I still have contact with the daughter, and Bree often flirts with me trying to get me back. I'm the only dad the kid has known and have no intentions of becoming an ex-dad. Even though getting back with her is emotionally tempting to be with the kid more, but I know better and I have better options. End of the first story. We have the second story coming up next. Please give a thumbs up if you are enjoying the video so far. Also, do subscribe to the channel. The second story is titled 1 Year Out from D-Day and the damage she has done. We have been together for almost 5 years and our daughter had just turned 3. We've been looking to buy a house for over a year and finally we had accepted an offer on a house that we both liked. Things were looking up for us even in the midst of this pandemic, which has already upended life as we all knew it. 11 days before closing on the house, I picked up her phone to silence it while her mother called during our daughter's bedtime routine. I was curious about her screen time usage, and so I opened the report. She's a heavy social media user, and I saw this app Discord had over 40 hours on it for the week, 8 hours on that day alone. When I opened it, there it was, the message "I love you" from a man whose name I did not recognize. When I clicked on the message, thinking, surely this is one of her friends laughing at one of her clever jokes. I was dismayed to see that she had said "I love you" back, and what preceded it was intense online texting. I confronted her that night, but her response immediately set off alarm bells. She initially denied that it was anything serious and claimed it was nothing more than online fantasy between her group of friends. I indicated that it seemed like more than that, and she took the tact of blaming me for not being more attentive for her needs physically. After digging a little further, I came to learn that this man is married with a child and living in Singapore. My wife had been texting him for only a few weeks, but the level of engagement was intense for the both of them and they were seemingly falling in love. All of this as we were about to buy a house together. She promised me that she cut things off with the guy and would work on the marriage, but you can probably see where this is going. We went ahead with the purchase of the house and moved out of the city last June. Over the summer, she resumed contact with him, all the while lying to me about it. I knew this because she left the messenger app logged in on the tablet we used for our daughter, where she maintained conversations with 2 close friends she met on Twitter. She suddenly had a new narrative about our relationship. How awful I am to her and how in love she was with the other man who is 22 years older than her. In spite of her going through the motions of working on our marriage, agreeing to counseling and firing each counselor. In August, she asked for a separation less than 3 months after I had discovered her online infidelity. In that brief period of time, I lost 50 pounds. We went to mediation that September. And apparently things were not moving fast enough for her liking. She felt I was dragging things out in order to hurt her. In December, unbeknownst to me at the time, she filed for divorce with her lawyer, thereby negating our process in mediation. In January, after an argument in which she slammed the door on me, she left the next day with our daughter to stay with her mother. This has been agreed upon earlier because our babysitter wasn't available that week. A few days after that, 2 police officers showed up at my door to serve me with an order of protection to stay away from my wife and my daughter. Fortunately, it was not an order to vacate. So, I was able to stay in the house while this was going on. Since then, we have been in family court to deal with her allegations. After being investigated by CPS and the allegations being deemed unfounded, I have limited access schedule with my daughter, only 2 hours per week. Even that is too much for my wife, who claims that I am manipulating our daughter and confusing her during our visits together. It would appear likely that a forensic evaluation will be necessary to get to the bottom of these issues, as she continues to claim mistreat and say I'm danger to them, even though I have no history of it whatsoever. She has no proof of any of her allegations. I will say that things are progressing, albeit slowly, and the legal bills are adding up. It's amazing how far that the WS will sometimes go to protect themselves when caught in a lie. The degree that my soon-to-be ex-wife has been deceiving herself in this ordeal has been surprising to me, my friends, and my family. This case is very active in the courts. I need to be very selective with the details for the time being. It's been a big help for me to process this damage and recognize that I'm not alone in this plight and that things do eventually get better even though we are all scarred for life. Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment and share the story if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.